All righty, so everybody should be joined here. I have you all muted right now, just because we have a few different ministries that are joined with us today. With everybody probably trying to chat in, it may be a little bit cumbersome. I did send everybody a chat though, so you should be able to, in the screen at the top, see a little option menu, and in that menu you should see a chat window. If everybody wants to click on that, they should get a message from me. If they could just send me a smiley face or a yes or something like that to let me know that you guys can hear me. Okay, Ken said yes. Karis, yes. Awesome, guys. And then Shantae, thank you. And then we've got two more, I think. Paul, Shelly, thank you. And Paul, awesome. So we are all together here. So what we'll do is we're going to go through the system together. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Today, you guys will get a little bit more in-depth look in the system than you normally would with the one-on-one appointment, just because, with the time constraints that we do have, we wanted to move you guys up to get you guys that training that's important to get you guys started soon. So what we'll do is I'll go ahead and get started. I will move through the system, and at each part I will stop and see if anybody has any questions. So in that chat box, if you guys would like, feel free to chat the questions that you do have. I'll read them out loud before I answer them, just so that the other people that are participating can hear the question as well, and then I'll answer that, and then we won't move on until everybody has their questions answered. So I'll go ahead and get logged in here. Give me 1 second and we'll get logged into our system. And I have that here. Let me see. Okay, so we'll go ahead and drag this over. Awesome. Alrighty, so we'll go ahead and get started today. What we're going to do is we're going to go through, again, each part of the builder. And then if you have any questions, again, we'll stop for questions. So I'll go through briefly what the main tabs are, and then we'll go back in more detail and I'll discuss what each part is. Right now, we're going to be using the Ezekiel template. All of the templates function the same, so we're not going to be talking specifics of the template, but just to let you guys know which template we are using, we're using the Ezekiel template. Again, everything that you see done inside this template, you will be able to replicate and do within your own. So there's not a problem there. Okay, so to get started, the system is actually going to be broken into 6 main parts of the builder. So you'll see those located here at the very top of the builder. We have the dashboard section, the pages section, design, media library, settings, and blog. So we'll go through it briefly of what each of those sections do and how they're used, and then we'll go back in more detail and discuss what those look like. So the dashboard, very briefly, is just going to be the landing page essentially for your builder. There's not going to be much here that you need to know, other than when there's an update for your system, which we actually just rolled out a new feature not too long ago. I think it was like 2 days ago. We just rolled a new feature out with some cool things that we'll be talking about today. So you all will actually be the first batch that gets trained on that new feature, those new features. So that's pretty cool. But again, the dashboard section is going to be just sort of a landing place for you inside the template. You don't really need to do very many things in here other than navigating to other parts of the builder. The next tab here that we're going to be moving over to is the Pages tab. The Pages tab is going to be where you guys are developing out your page, putting in content, adjusting the layout of the website. This is really going to be where you guys are going to be spending the majority of your time. So switching in and out content, again, adjusting the layout of the pages, adjusting the construction, the sitemap of your website, things like that are going to be done inside the Pages tab. The next part is the Design tab. The Design section is going to be used to create and manage the style of your template. So anything that you change here will adjust across the entire website. So that's like the color palette for your site, the textiles that you're going to be using, and so forth. So you can really think of your Design tab as sort of your style guide or your style sheet for your website, okay? The media library section is going to be just that. It's going to be your media library. This is where you guys will be able to upload media, things like images, videos, audio, documents. So if you have PDFs for newsletters, things like that, you will be able to upload all of that here and then use that when you're building out your website under the Pages tab. The next section is going to be your settings tab. I'm pretty sure you guys are probably familiar with what a settings tab is, but we'll discuss the things that belong in here as well. So we'll get a good idea of what you can do inside of here and some of the things that are useful to building your site. And then the last section is your blog section, which I'm sure the majority of you are familiar with what a blog is. If you are not, we'll discuss what that is. So that is the brief overview of what each section does. We're going to go back in more detail here now and discuss the intricacies of each part. Does anybody have any questions as far as what each tab is used for? If you don't, just say I'm good. If you do have a question, feel free to throw it out there. I'll give it a few seconds just so you guys can catch in. Cool, cool. Okay, looks like everybody's good here. Awesome. So, awesome. Okay. So the first tab that we're going to be looking at in more detail here is the pages section. And actually, before I go into this, I just want to make sure, am I coming through clear to you guys? Can you guys hear me clearly? Can you see my screen clearly? I just want to make sure that we are good. Awesome. Thank you for the responses. Very good. Okay, awesome. And just to let you guys know, there will be, this recording will be recorded, and you guys will be able to refer back to this. I'll make sure to get you a link to it. We'll post it probably on our Ministry Designs YouTube channel so that you guys can refer back to it. So we'll try to get you that link after the appointment. That way you guys can kind of fast forward and rewind all the things that we covered today. Awesome. So the Pages tab, again, is going to be where you guys are going to be designing out your website. So this is going to be where you construct the pages and so forth. So your design tab is going to be really structured into three main sections. So the first section is going to be the widgets menu, which is over here on the left-hand side of your screen. This is where all the tools that you're going to be using to develop your website are going to be located. So if you want to use any of these tools or widgets, all you have to do is click and drag that into the next portion that we're going to be talking about, which is your staging area here. So the big area in the middle here where you actually get a live preview of your website is what we refer to as your staging area. This is where all the magic happens, so to speak. This is where you're adjusting the layout, putting in your content, building out your web page, okay? So you're gonna be building your website by a per page basis. So what you see here is one page of your website, and then you'll be able to navigate to other pages and design one page at a time, okay? The menu on the right-hand side, which is the third part of the pages section, is what we refer to as our page property section. So this actually doubles as two menus. The first menu that you're going to see here is your page property section, where you can adjust the page name, your page URL, some things in the SEO settings, so like your page title, if you guys want to adjust that. Typically, you want to keep those all the same. You'll notice it says home, home, and home here. You also have the ability to adjust the visibility, as well as setting public, if you want to make it a draft or if you want to make it published, as well as password protected and things like that. You also have the ability to assign specific headers and footers to your page, which we'll talk about here in a second, as well as adjust the background style. I recommend keeping the background style the same for your entire website. However, if you choose to change that here, you can do that. So back to the staging area, and we'll refer to the sections, the header and footer here now. The staging area itself is actually going to be broken into three parts as well. So you'll notice at the very top, we have what we refer to as our header, which you can see is now highlighted entirely in orange. We have the content section, which is highlighted in orange, which makes up the entire page here. And then you can see that we have the footer, which is located at the very bottom. When you guys create a new page, what you're actually doing is you're creating a new content section. From there, you have the ability to assign a header and a footer to that page. The reason why we do this is because assigning a header and a footer to the page gives you the ability to assign that to multiple pages. And what that does for you is, let's say you have a really big church and you have 50 different pages inside your website. Let's say you accidentally spelt the name of your church down here. Instead of going to each page 50 different times and changing that, you have the ability to change the single header that is assigned to your 50 pages, and it'll change it across the entire website, which saves you guys a ton of time. And that is true as well for your header as well. So if you need to update maybe a logo for your church, or if you want to adjust the menu for your church, you can do that there, and that will adjust itself across the entire website. Now, granted, you do have the ability to create multiple headers and multiple footers if you want. So let's say you have a preschool and you want to create a kind of a goofy header, a goofy footer that fits more to the style of a preschool or a daycare for the church, you guys can do that as well. Typically, most churches are going to assign a single header and a single footer to all of their pages to save time. It just creates a very consistent look throughout your website. So those are the three main sections. You have your widgets menu over here on the left-hand side, your staging area in the middle here, and then your page properties menu. Now again, the menu on the right-hand side does switch to a different menu, and we'll be talking about that here next. If I am now to select, say, a piece of content inside of our staging area, say I select this image here, you'll now see that the menu on the right-hand side will switch from your page properties menu to what we refer to as our content menu. It will now connect to whatever piece of content you have selected inside of your staging area. So if I were to say select this button here, which I accidentally duplicated, but since I select this button here, you can now see that the menu is labeled button, and now I have control over this specific button. If I were to say select our accordion widget here, I then now have the ability to adjust that accordion widget using this menu on the right-hand side. Does that make sense to everybody? Just kind of just type in a 1 real quick if it makes sense, and if you have a question, feel free to type a question. Cool, guys, catching on? Pretty easy. Awesome, awesome. Okay, so Shelly asked, how do you make a draft? That's a great question, Shelly. Since we're on the home page, we can't actually make the home page a draft. I'll show you that real quick. We'll go to an inner page. When you first come to that page, Shelly, on the right-hand side under page properties, you will see the option to be able to adjust the status of the page, and you can set that as a draft or published. What the draft does is that protects anybody from the outside of your website from seeing that page. So no matter if they go to, say, your church's domain name is church.org, no matter if they go to church.org/about us, right, because this is your URL, about us, they still will not be able to see that page. So you do have to publish that page in order for your visitors to be able to see that. So great question. All right, so we'll go ahead and go back to the home page just to work on this here. So what I'll do is I'll go now into the widgets that are used, how to construct the page, and things like that. So our system is completely 100% responsive. In order for that to be that way, all the content needs to be essentially kind of accounted for inside the staging area. So the way that we do that are with our structure widgets, which are located up here. I'm actually going to shrink all these because we'll talk about these individually. So our structure widgets here at the top, we have our container and we have our row. What these do is give you the ability to structure your pages so that all the content is going to be accounted for and organized in the way that you want it displayed on your page. So the container widget is good for actually creating sections of your page or creating a background container. So if you wanted to, say, put a background image and then put information over top of it, you can drag a container in. That'll give you the ability to create like parallax images and so forth, as well as create maybe a different style background. So if I were to scroll down to our footer here, we can actually see we have a gray area and we have a green area. So if I were to select in here and go to the container, I have the ability to adjust the background color of that container, and then we can change the colors of that and so forth. And we'll talk more about color palettes here in a second. But again, the container gives you guys the ability to create a section of the page and gives you the control to create a different background or an image if you want to put an image back there, and we'll look at that later if you guys are interested. Now the row is going to be the most versatile widget that you guys are going to be using. The row gives you guys the ability to divide up space on your page. So you can see here I have a row selected, and in that row you can see, again, using the content menu on the right hand side, since I have the row selected, and I can see that because of our structure tab. I can see a little tab here, it's blue, it just says row. In the menu on the right hand side, I can see the row structure is set to 3 columns. So I have 3 different columns of information that I can put my information in. Now, when I go to, say, a different device, and I can use these options up here, the system now knows that all this information in this column belongs to each other, all this information in this column belongs to each other, and so forth and so forth on. Now, if we want to create more columns, we have the ability to do that. We can actually interlayer rows. So say we wanted to put an icon next to this image inside of its own column. We actually have the ability to take a row, put it inside that center column, go a depth even further, create 2 columns there. You know, I can put this image in the left-hand side, and then I can put another text box or something like that over there. But in this case, I'm just going to reset this so that we don't have that. We can keep it consistent. But again, the row gives you guys the ability to divide up space. So really, these are the building blocks of your website. Again, the container creates different sections of your page, and then the row gives you the ability to divide up the space in that area. Now, when I go to different devices, you can see that the new here section, about us, and the service times and locations will actually stay together now because they're in their specific columns inside the row. So you can see all the new here information stays together, all the about us information stays together, all the service times and locations information stays together. Does that make sense to you guys as far as the rows and containers? If it does, just hit the 1. If it doesn't, feel free to ask your question. Awesome. You guys are carrying on, catching on. And again, our system is extremely versatile. So there's a lot that we're going to be covering today, but again, you can go back and watch the video. There's a ton for you to know, but I'll show you some tips and tricks that'll save you a lot of time. And if you don't want to get into the deep, customization of the template, you don't have to. This is for those people that really want to understand the depths of the system, what it can do. So if you guys want to just stay surface level with the template, by all means, absolutely do that. That is why it's there, for you to plug information in and play. But awesome. So we'll go ahead and move on from the structure tabs. The next batch of widgets here are going to be our basic widgets. So we have our text boxes, our image widgets, our buttons, our dividers, which is this little line here. And I'll show you again how to use these. Our spacing widget, which is going to be one of the most important widgets because it creates space inside your template, which gives you guys content room to breathe. One of the very undervalued things inside of web design is space. But that is one of the key things, and if you guys are taking notes, that is one of the key things that will make your website look clean and organized, is using proper spacing above and below and on the sides of what you're doing. And I'll show examples of that later as well. And then the next widget is our menu, which you can see up here. This is your navigation bar for when visitors go to visit your site. They'll be able to navigate to different pages. And then your contact form. So I'll go ahead and start with the text boxes. Here you can see we have a text box. If I select it once, again, we have the ability to adjust some of the features over here on the right-hand side. And if I double click inside of it, we will get our cursor as well as our tool, our text editing toolbar here. So I'm sure you guys are probably familiar with this. You probably worked with Word before. You have the ability to bold, italicize, underline, and actually put a line through something if you want. We call it strike through, but if you want, you can call it whatever you want. You also have the ability to assign these for SEO purposes to heading 1 tags, 2, 3, 4, as well as normal paragraph font. If you guys do not understand SEO or search engine optimization, don't worry too much about these. If you guys want to get into the intricacies of that, we do have SEO experts on the team that you can talk with. We do offer SEO services if that's something you're interested in. The next is going to be our font size. This is another very key point. You actually want to stay away from this font size tool as much as possible. The reason why we have this in here is to adjust your different icons that you can use. All of the sizing for your text is going to be done so with this drop-down menu, which is referred to as our textiles menu. And we'll go into detail on this here in a second. This is going to be something that's very important. You want to make sure that you stick very closely to your textiles and not do a whole lot of outside editing for that, because that is going to keep your website consistent. And it's also going to make sure that your text boxes are responsive as well. So I'll show you what I mean here in a little bit. But other than that, we have our alignments. We have the ability to hyperlink specific text, which means add some sort of click action to a text box. So if you click that, you have the ability to add some sort of navigation or whatever you would like for it to do. If you want it to go to a blog post, open up a specific pop-up or go to another page inside the website and so forth. So that is one form of navigation. You also have the ability to do tabs in, different numbered lists if you'd like, bullet points, add an icon. So if you want to add an icon in there, we have a full list of icons that you guys can use. And then these are the only time I'd ever suggest using our font size. And if you guys are interested in that, I can show you how to do that at the end of this. And then you also have the ability to insert a picture actually into your text. I'll be completely honest with you right now, this is actually a new feature that we added 2 updates ago. It works, but there's ways to work better. So if you guys are interested in that, we can talk about it. And then you have the ability to unformat text as well. And then these are your undo and redo features inside your text. So if I accidentally delete a chunk of text, I can come here and I can just undo that or redo that depending on what I want to do, okay? So the textiles, what we'll do is talk about this briefly, and then we'll talk more about it inside the design tab. But when you create a new text box, so let's say we drag a new text box in, I'm just gonna drag it in. I'm gonna drop it right below the existing one we have. Now, this is actually a good point to show you how to drag in your widgets. If I am to click and drag one of our widgets into this staging area here in the middle, the staging area will give you a series of orange and green lines. The orange lines are going to tell you which piece of structure you're putting that in. So remember, our structure widgets are our containers or our rows. And then the green line is going to tell me where inside of that piece of structure I am putting this widget. So you can see this green line. I would be putting it between these 2 text boxes. If I move it over here, it would be going between this image and this text box. So we'll go ahead and drop it in here for now. So it'll come in, it'll be formatted to a specific text style, but from there you have the ability to simply highlight the text. So let's just say, we'll type in sample text here, highlight that, and you have the ability to adjust that per the different text styles that are there. So you can see each one kind of has a specific use and so forth. And your template will be specific to your design. So all these will be different for different templates, but all the text styles will be in there for you guys to use. So you want to find, when you're designing out your website, you want to find that the proper heading text styles are used properly. As we scroll down, you can see that section headers are using the heading extra, extra large text style. As I keep scrolling down, we can see that this is consistent. And this is the reason why we use text styles. It keeps your website design consistent and takes all the formatting out for you. This also gives you the ability to change fonts and sizes with one click of a button inside your design tab. But again, we'll talk more about that inside your design tab. So that is your text box. Do you guys, before I move on, do you guys have any questions on that? If you're good, just go ahead and hit the 1 key again. That way I know to move on. Or any questions on the text box? Very cool. So we'll kind of whiz through some of these other additional widgets, just because if we go through one by one, we'll probably be here for 4 or 5 hours. But if you have any questions on the ones that you see here, feel free to just chat the title of it, and I'll go ahead and talk about it. So as those are coming in, I'll talk about the widgets and some of the other things as well. But if you see one in particular here that you would like to be discussed about, just chat me the title of the widget. So again, the one thing that I do want to talk about is going to be the spacing widget, which is very important. As I click and drag that into the staging area, what that gives me is the ability to create space in between text or in between pieces of content. So let's say this text box here, let's actually give us a better example. Okay, this will work. So let's say this text box here and this accordion widget are way too close together. Say they're just butted up too close. What we can do is we can take our spacing widget, put it right in between them, and then I can actually use the height of that to create space. So let's say we wanted that button to match up with the image on the left-hand side. I can move this all the way down until that matches perfectly and so forth. So again, the spacing widget is very important to use to give proper space. Some designs are going to be, some templates are going to use this more so than others. In the Ezekiel template, there's a lot of white here, so you're usually pretty safe. Some other ones that have some pretty defined sections, you want to make sure that you're using the proper amount of space. Awesome. So do you guys have any other additional questions? It looks like nobody had any additional questions about the basic uses here. Again, to use something, all you have to do is just click and drag it into the staging area, release your mouse for the image. You can click the image you want, hit apply. It will be inserted. From there, you can grab the structure tab and move that wherever you'd like. So again, all the widgets are going to function pretty similar. All you have to do is just click and drag that throughout the template wherever you want it to go. Okay, so Shelly asked, is it okay to add space within the settings on an area? Yes. So a quick and easy way to do that, Shelly, and that's a great question. If you want to add proper spacing just quickly instead of using a spacing widget, you also have this option over here on the right-hand side. So that is a great question. So to speak, instead of dropping a spacing widget in between each one of these, what I can do is on my text box, I can actually just put small spacing above and below this text box. That way nothing's touching. So that's a great question, Shelly. You guys do have the ability to add spacing, pre-designated spacing. You can see we just have auto, small, medium, and large to that area. So that's a great question. Does anybody else have any questions before I move on to the gallery section? If you do not and you want to move on, just go ahead and hit the 1 key. All right, looks like everybody's getting it. Awesome. All right, so the gallery section is going to be what you guys can use to create ways to display images. So as I scroll up to the top here, you can see that we actually have a slider widget. We also have 2 other options. We have a gallery widget as well as a carousel. The gallery is going to function much like a grid. So as I go to the galleries page here, this will give you an idea what they'll look like. So the slider is 1 image at a time. The carousel widget gives you the ability to kind of stifle through multiple images at a time. The carousel widget also gives you guys the ability to have click actions on the images. So if you have events that are coming up and you want to put banners in there, the carousel widget is a great one for that. So they can click on it and go to a specific event if you'd like. And then your grid gallery is a collage of your images down here. What it'll actually do is, depending on the size and shape of the image, the system will actually automatically create you some sort of collage. So the grid gallery is a really cool widget to use. I truly enjoy it for displaying if you have an event or something like that and you want to talk about it. It's a really cool tool to use. In order to add any images to these, all you have to do is click, and on the right-hand side, you have the ability to edit that slider, and then all you have to do is hit add images, and that will add that from your media library. Shelly asked, can you also add links on the slides in the slider? Currently, we do not have the ability to add hyperlinks to the slider. You can add text to it. We are working on getting the click action added to the slider. So what you would be able to do, Shelly, here soon is add text to the images, and then the images will be clickable. And we're hoping to give that the ability that the carousel has to the slider as well. Right now, the grid gallery is just strictly for examples. So like if you were to say, view this page here, and you wanted to look at the grid gallery, this just gives you the ability to zoom in on the picture, and then you can kind of stifle through them if you'd like. So that's what the grid gallery is for. It's more of a show, whereas the carousel and slider, you can have the ability to display those images. So that's a great question. But those are the gallery widgets. You have the ability to, again, adjust the size of these if you'd like by strictly putting them inside of a column. So let's say you wanted to put a small slider somewhere. All you have to do is, if you were to say break this into 3 columns, you can actually take your slider, put it in that middle column, and then you can adjust the width of the columns, and that will also give you the ability to adjust the size of the slider or grid gallery that you're using. I'll go ahead and redo that though here. So do any of you guys have any other additional questions on the galleries? They're pretty basic as far as how they function. Shelly asks, does it tell you the recommended size for images? So it'll depend on the images that you want to use inside your slider. The key important thing here that you want to remember for your sliders and carousel in particular is the aspect ratio. Our image editing tool and our photo editing tool inside of our media library can only give you the ability to edit images up to 1,024 pixels. So we recommend that if you guys use any images that it's below 1,000 pixels is usually a great sized image. As far as the width is concerned, the height is just going to depend on what your images are. Most of our banner images are going to have an aspect ratio of, I believe it's probably, can't remember exactly, maybe like 5 by 2. So if you multiply that by whatever value it is, that's kind of the aspect ratio of it. But it's going to be whatever works best for you guys. And after this appointment, as you're building out your sites, if you have questions on that, we can always schedule 20-minute appointments as well. And you can always email our support department as well, and they'll help you with that too. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump past this real quick. So Shelly asked, I did notice I have to make them all the same size. Is there a way to do that in the program? Yes, there is. And I'll show you how to do that inside the media library when we get there. You can actually use our photo editing system to adjust that. Yep, not a problem. So the next section here is going to be our social section. This is also a very awesome section here. This gives you guys the ability to reach. This is one of the tools that is very underutilized. You want to use these as much as possible because you guys can actually reach tens of thousands of people with only a few resources. So I'll show you kind of what they're used for. The social links give you guys the ability to actually have people link directly to your social media accounts. So as you can see on the right-hand side here, we have Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So if you guys want to link your social media to there, say you have a staff section, you want people to be able to connect with you on social media, all you have to do is put the URL inside of one of these fields, and then that icon will show up. So for instance, if we wanted to give Pastor Sam here, we wanted to give him a Google Plus account, all we'd have to do is put a Google Plus something in there, and then you'll see his Google Plus icon will pop up. If you don't want that icon to show up, all you have to do is take the information out of that field and it'll disappear. You also have the ability to adjust the form, or excuse me, the order of these as well. So if you feel like Facebook's most important, then Twitter, then Instagram, you can organize those as well. So those are pretty neat. You also have the ability to adjust the presets of these as well. So if you want to change what those look like, you can do that. These are actually white, so you can't really see them. Down in our footer here, you can see the white ones. Since we're on a white background, you can't see them, but you can adjust the presets for those as well. And each template has unique designs for their specific template. Now the social buttons are going to be really cool as well. The social buttons will actually give you guys the ability to let visitors share your website on their social media. So if somebody, say you have a blog post and you want to put these social buttons on there, or you have an event, you can put this social buttons widget in there, and that'll give people the ability to share about that event on their social media. So let's say I'm a visitor and I come to the web page, I come in here and I see, oh, okay, so let's say this is an event called Social Buttons. And I want to share that with all my friends on my Facebook. I can actually click share. It'll connect it to that individual's device. And now you can see on my Facebook here, I can share that about whatever I like. And since I have just a bunch of nonsense typed in there, you can see that it's just a bunch of nonsense. But that'll give you the ability to share events, blog posts, resources from your site to your visitors' social media, which is very cool. I'll go ahead and leave that though. Okay, and then keep scrolling. So the next thing we do have is timelines, feeds, and boards. So if you want to, you can put your Facebook, your Twitter timeline, or your Pinterest board right there on the site. All you have to do is copy the URL. Since Ministry Designs doesn't have a Pinterest, and I just don't think I've ever put a timeline in here myself. But all you have to do is take the widget ID for Twitter, copy and paste it in there. For Facebook, all you have to do is take the URL address, copy and paste that in there. And then you have a live feed of your social media directly on your website, which is pretty neat. So that's the social section. Does anybody have any questions about the social section? Any of the widgets? Any questions there? Okay, I think we're good to go. So I'll go ahead and move back. If you guys have questions, feel free to just chat in. The next section is the media section. I'll go ahead and go to our media page here. So the video widget here on the top left corner is going to be our integration with YouTube and Vimeo. So I should probably put YouTube and Vimeo. So in order to use this widget, all you have to do is, and I'll delete this out so you can see, all you have to do is click and drag that into the staging area. It'll come in as just a gray box. All you have to do is come to the video URL. If you hit the pencil icon here, all you have to do is copy and paste the URL of your video in here and hit apply, and the video will appear inside of that section there. So it'll look just like this. When somebody views it, they can click. They can do full screen if they want. This is very important to use if you guys are filming your sermons. I highly recommend creating a YouTube account, strictly because Google actually owns YouTube. and that will help with the being able to for visitors to find your church on the internet. Also, your congregation members can subscribe to your channel, and that means whenever you guys post a sermon on YouTube, they would be actually updated and alerted that a new video has been posted. So there's a ton of benefits to it. I highly recommend doing it. If you guys have any specific questions about it, always feel free to reach out. The video player is going to be just our in-house video player tool. So if you guys don't want to use any of those resources, you don't have to. You can upload a video directly to our media library and simply attach that here. All you have to do to add a video is hit the little plus icon, look for a video to add, hit apply, and that will be added to your media library, or excuse me, to your page. Same is true for audio. So we have our audio player. Here's just a little example of a little playlist that we put together for you guys. This is going to be the audio player here, this little guy, all this stuff we kind of just created for you. In order to add the audio player, again, all you have to do is click and drag that into the staging area. To add a audio track, all you have to do is, again, add it over here on the right-hand side. We can click and just add that in if we want to. And then in order to download that, if you guys want, you can actually put a button in there, which is just under our basic widgets, and you can force a download. So if you want people to download your sermons, they have the ability to do that, which is very cool. And then we also have an integration with SoundCloud. So if you guys have SoundCloud for your sermons already, all you have to do is, just like YouTube, copy and paste the tracking ID code for that, or the embed code that SoundCloud gives you, and it will automatically embed directly in your site where people can play your audio. So that's the media section. Do you guys have any questions on that? If you're good to go and you're still sticking with me, just go ahead and hit the 1 key. That way I know you guys are tracking along. We're moving along pretty quickly here. It's not like you guys have a whole lot of questions, so it's pretty good. So Shelly wants to know, how would we do live streaming on the site? Shelly, live streaming services offer what we refer to as an HTML code, and I will show you that in the more section here in a second. So live streaming will actually, you guys will actually be able to use that inside the more section, and I'll show you here in a second how to do that. So go ahead and move on. Yep, perfect. So the next section is just our blog elements. So if you guys do host a blog, this little tool here will actually give you guys the ability to create a most recent list of the blog posts. It literally just gives you a list of the most recent posts that you guys created. So it's pretty straightforward. So the last section of our widgets here is our more section. These are going to be kind of the cooler widgets, more unique widgets that you can use. We have a Google Maps widget. So things like your contact us page, you can put a direct map of where you guys are located. So let's say you guys are located in New York. You type that in, and Google Map will automatically adjust itself and drop you guys right in for New York. And then you can type in whatever address you guys, where your ministry is located, and it will do that. Apparently there's New York connections somewhere in the middle of Michigan, but you type in a specific address and your address will populate directly in here. So that's a pretty cool widget. The other widgets that we do have are MailChimp. So if you guys want to do an email blast, say you want to do something for like your bulletin posts or things like that, MailChimp is a great resource for that. Discuss is going to be a comment section for your blog posts. If you want people to be able to comment on there, you can integrate that with Discuss. And then we have our countdown timer, which you guys actually saw before our appointment. So this was a little quick page I threw together before the webinar. The countdown timer gives you the ability to set a date and a time, and it will automatically start counting down to that time. So if you guys want to use this for like your church service on a Sunday morning, you want to do countdown to Sunday morning service, you can do that, or an event or whatever it may be, and you have the ability to do that. Again, this has a design tab as well to adjust the preset design of what that looks like. And if you want to adjust what those look like, you can address that inside the design tab, which I will show you here in a second. Some of the other widgets that we do offer, another one which is really cool, is the accordion widget, which we have on our home page here. The accordion widget is very cool, and it's one of our newer features, and we actually just recently updated it. What that does is gives you guys the ability to hide large amounts of text or content from the page unless the visitor clicks on it. So this is really cool if you want to make a section much cleaner. So like here you can see it says, where do I park? What do I wear? Where do I go? Maybe somebody's coming to your site for the first time. Some of these questions are huge in a connection to if a visitor is actually going to walk through your doors. a little kind of cool little tip here for you guys. The biggest thing that people are looking for when they're visiting your website is, what do I wear? That is one of the biggest questions for non-church churched people out there that are looking for a place to call home. One of the biggest questions that they're looking for an answer to is, what do I wear? So it's always important on somewhere on your site, maybe your new here page or something like that, just to say, come as you are. If that's how you guys roll on Sunday morning, just something to give people an idea on how to feel as comfortable as possible when they walk through the door. The purpose of your church website here is to be the front door, essentially, of your ministry. So when somebody comes to your site, they should understand the personality of your ministry. They should see faces of the people that they're going to see Sunday morning, hear the voices that they're going to be hearing Sunday morning. You want them to feel as comfortable as possible before they walk through those front doors. And the likelihood of them coming back is going to actually shoot up as far as a percentage-wise of them coming back. So that's a key thing there for you guys, a little tip. But again, the accordion widget, you guys have the ability to hide this information. You can add different ones over here on the right-hand side. To hide it, you can have the different ways that it's toggled or expanded. So if you want to leave those expanded, you could do that, and then all that information can be displayed. Or if you want them to be toggled, you can do it one at a time, which kind of creates a cool little feature there. We have a progress bar, so if you guys are looking to do like maybe donations, or you have a fundraiser for something, if you drop this in here, you have the ability to add a title for, say, you guys have like a missions trip, and you want to raise a certain amount of money for that. You guys have the ability to say, okay, we're at 50% of our total goal, and let's say we want to color that green. We have our progress bar there, and then you can title that and so forth, what you want. So that's a cool little tool if you guys are raising money for something. Slide share is just the ability to put a slideshow on there if you'd like. It's just a tool, much like Discuss, where you can. It's an API with an outside resource. So if you want to do that, you can do that. And then the last two widgets that are very cool, and Shelly, this will answer your question about the about your live streaming, is the embed widget gives you guys the ability to actually embed in tools from the outside in. So if you guys want to say, if you have your own calendar widget, say you have a calendar through Eventbrite or something like that, you can embed that directly into your website using the embed widget. So that gives you guys, again, all you have to do is take the HTML code, which service providers will give you. All you have to do is just copy and paste that into our embed widget, and that'll give you the ability to put that information in there. So I believe in our events section, we have just an example of a Google Calendar inside the website. This is just a calendar of holidays. All this does is just you copy and paste this code in here, and it will automatically embed outside tools into your site. So Shelly, for live streaming, your live streaming provider should provide you with a chunk of HTML code. From there, you should be able to just copy and paste that into our embed widget. And at that point, then you are good to go, and you should be able to display your online giving, or excuse me, not your online giving, but your live streaming directly on your page. So I hope that answers your question. And again, your provider should provide you with that. So Shelly said, is there a calendar as part of the website? She hasn't gotten that far into Explorer. No, Shelly, we do not offer a calendar widget yet, but with the embed widget, you can use whatever calendar you want, or a calendar that you're already currently using. Google Calendar is free. A lot of our ministries like to use that as a resource. They're very easy to use. They're great to have because a lot of people have Google accounts, so they can actually store events that are happening on the calendar directly to their calendar from your site. So if you want to use Google Calendar, it's free. If you want to use a different event system, you can absolutely use that as well. The other last one I want to talk about is the iframe widget. The iframe widget is really cool. It gives you guys the ability to take outside websites and put it inside of your website. So for instance, if we wanted to say come to ESPN.com and we wanted to take ESPN and copy that, and let's say we wanted to put ESPN directly into our site, you can drop iframe in there, come to the URL, plop that in, and now you guys can display, if you wanted to, ESPN directly on your guys' website, and people can visit other sites directly through your page. So if you guys want to use a resource, or if you want to do something plugging and playing from another site, you can absolutely do that as well. So iframe is a really cool tool. A lot of people use it for like online giving and stuff as well. If you guys have an outside provider, you can iframe that directly into your site as well. Awesome. So that is all the widgets that we do offer currently. Did you guys have any additional questions about the widgets? Was there anything I missed that you wanted to see? If you're good, just say, good. If you have a question, feel free to type that in now. Awesome. Very good. Good. Glad you guys are enjoying it so far. Okay, cool. So those are all the widgets. And again, you will be able to go back through, and we do have individual videos on a lot of these widgets that you can use from our YouTube channel as well. So that's going to be the pages section. The last thing I want to cover is just the toolbar at the very top here. If you want to view your page live, what visitors would look at, you can either view the page or view the site. The site will just take you back to the home page. View page will actually take you to the page that you're currently editing. Over here on the left-hand side, we do have a drop-down menu. This is what we refer to as our current section menu. This is actually how you get from page to page inside the builder. You will notice that you cannot be currently editing a section and use this menu. So you want to make sure that you either save or cancel out of the changes you've made in order to go from page to page inside the builder. Okay. And then last but not least, the one thing that, or one thing I do, or actually I lied, two things I want to talk about real quick. The first thing is duplicating a page. So duplicating a page is going to be extremely important in saving time when developing your guys' website. The thing you're going to do is obviously create new pages. Instead of adding a brand new page over here on the left-hand side, what will happen is when you add a new page, and we'll just call this test 1, when you create a new page, you'll actually create a completely blank screen, which is going to take you guys a lot of time to develop out, obviously, a completely new page. Instead of doing that, what I personally recommend doing, and this will be very important, this will save you guys hours of time, is coming to a page that already exists that you like the layout of. I highly always recommend using the About Us page because that's usually a really well-rounded page. And taking that page and duplicating that page, let's say we wanted to create a men's ministry group. What I can do is I can duplicate that page, and then now what I can do is I can rename that, let's say men's, we'll just call it men's retreat since it was saved in there. So men's retreat, we can change the page URL to men's retreat and then the page title. And now I'm going to publish this page, and now I can come in here and just simply change this to men's retreat. And now we have a men's retreat page already created for us. And all we have to do now is just change out the content. And you'll have a completely designed page from scratch, and you guys can adjust this however you'd like. So again, duplicating pages is very important. It'll save you guys a lot of time. My other suggestion is making sure that before you guys begin editing your site, is I would highly recommend duplicating all of the existing pages that are in here so that you can have the original template available for you at any time. So if you ever want to refer back to the original template, just go back to the duplicated version, you're good to go. Shelly asks, is it different if you duplicate the homepage? So you can absolutely duplicate the homepage. It's the same thing. I may not be understanding your question, but yes, you can absolutely duplicate the homepage. The About Us page is just going to function much more like all the other inner pages inside your site, Shelly, which gives you the ability to stay consistent as far as your inner pages are concerned. So Shelly said, I made changes on the home to page and it changed it on my home page as well. So the reason why that is happening, Shelly, is probably because you actually edited the header or the footer. When you duplicated that page, you probably clicked accidentally inside the header or footer. And when you do that, it will actually change that on all the pages that share that header or footer. So actually, Shelly, on some templates, the slideshow is actually in your header. Shelly said that it was not in the header or the footer. She said it was the slideshow. Some of the templates actually have the slider inside the header. So we can look at that at a later appointment, but we'll discuss that here in a second. The very last thing I want to show you inside the Pages tab is going to be the pop-ups. This is a brand new feature that we just released the other day. So if you guys want to add a new pop-up, you can absolutely do that. I've created one already, but it functions just like a page. So when you create a new pop-up, you can name it, and then it'll create you a blank one. What I've actually done is created the existing one, and we'll find that at the very bottom of our current section menu here. You can see I created one called Test. It's just a contact form. So what that will look like now, and going back to the home page, I'll show you where I attached it. But what I did is for this button here that says more info, you can see I actually selected that to link to a pop-up. And then I selected the test pop-up, the one that I created. So if we were to view the page and take a look at that, we can come down to the more info button. When I click that, we now have a pop-up window. So now you guys have the ability to create pop-up windows, which are really cool. So if you want to create like specific bio pages, but you don't want to create a whole page, you have the ability to do like specific bio pop-ups or event pop-ups or registration pop-ups, which is really cool. Awesome. So that is the pages section in brief detail. So before I move on, is everybody good to go? We're going to go ahead and go to the design tab if everybody's good to move on. So Shelly asked one more quick question. She said, if I am editing a published page, can I save it as a draft or does it go live once I hit save? So as long, it depends, Shelly, if it's saved as a draft or saved as published. If it's a draft page, so like let's say we've set this to draft, you can hit save as draft if you don't want to publish it. If you want to publish it, you can hit publish and then hit save. So again, if it's a draft, you can save it as a draft. It does not have to go quote unquote live until you set it as published. So once the page is published, Shelly, you won't see draft up here. It'll actually be down here. So she asked, I don't see a draft option once published. Once the page is published and you just see save, it's actually down here under publishing. There's an option that says published or draft. And you may be on the home page. You cannot assign your home page to be a draft because that is the one page that people are going to be on. So again, Shelly, you're probably on your home page and you cannot set your home page to draft. So if you go to like your About Us page, you'll see those options there. But everybody else is good to go. So we'll go ahead and jump to the design tab. Now the design section is going to be one of those sections that's really unique to the system here. What that'll do is that'll adjust the entire design of your website. So the things that are very important, again, are going to be the textiles and those color palettes. And I'll show you how those work. So the reason why we, again, use those textiles is because it gives us the ability to adjust text across the entire website. Instead of going from text box to text box, you can change things across the entire website. So if I were to say, click this text box here, you can see we are using the medium text style for that text box. And again, I'm under the design tab now. So if I click that text box, I get the text style that I'm using. A text style is made up of 5 different things. We have the font color. We have the font itself. And we can always add more fonts to this inside the settings tab. I'll show you how. And then we have the style. We have the font size, as well as the line height and letter spacing. So let's say for this specific template, let's say the font size was too small. We have the ability to increase that and actually have that increase for all of the other text boxes that are using that style. So you can see how it's important. You can actually change that across the entire website. It's not just for this page. So everything on the entire site that is using the medium text style will adjust itself. So you can see why it's important. If you assign them all to one text style, you can adjust that and you can make changes across your entire site with just a couple clicks of a button. So for all of our templates, if you guys want to make some quick changes to make it really unique to your church, changing the font for the text styles and maybe the sizing and stuff will really separate yours from the other sites. The other reason why these are really important, these text styles, is because, again, they all are responsive. So you can see that, let's say we click this option here. We can see it's size 30 inside the desktop. As we scroll down, it actually adjusts itself to go to size 29. So if I were to select the tablet version, this option here now is a size 29. If I continue to scroll down, we have the mobile landscape and we also have the mobile portrait. You can see it jumps to 28 and then to 23. So that text box will then adjust to the other devices. So that's why text styles are so important, because they have that responsive nature assigned to them. And if you want to change per the device, say you feel like it could be a little bigger or a little smaller per those devices, you have the ability to adjust those. And then again, in your text styles, you have all of these to choose from. If that's not enough, you want to create a very unique one, you absolutely have the ability to adjust your own style. Or if you'd like, you have the ability to duplicate an existing style and then tweak that as well if you don't want to start from scratch. Does that make sense as far as text styles? Do you guys understand that? If yes, just give me a 1. If no, excuse me. If no, just go ahead and ask me your question. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so the next thing is actually going to be one of my most favorite parts of our system, and that's going to be our color palette. So our color palettes give you guys the ability to, again, customize your entire site with a few clicks of a button. So let's say we come to a site and we want a different color site. Say your guys have a branded color for your website. What you can do is you can come to the color palette and you can adjust the colors of the entire website with just a few clicks. So I can see everything that's assigned to lime green here. Let's say I don't like lime green. Let's say I want to change it to like a blue. I can select this color palette here, which is going to be the main squares at the top. The squares below give you shades darker and shades lighter. The middle row is actually the color that you select here. It gives you 2 shades darker or 2 shades lighter just for design purposes. But the main one here is going to be the one you're selecting. So let's say I want to change this green. Let's say I want everything that's green on our site, we want to change to blue. I can go to blue. Let's say we want it to be kind of a more steel blue. We can change that there. So now everything that was lime green is now that blue. And that will change again across the entire website, which is very cool. And then let's say if we want to change that gray to, let's say like an orange, we can change that to an orange. And now everything that was that gray color, which you can see July pie, the buttons now changing colors, all those will change. So now we have a blue and orange site instead of a gray and lime green site. And you guys can play with this to match the logos of your website, or logos of maybe your ministry or the branding of your ministry, whatever it may be. And you can play around with this as long as you do not hit save. You can always hit the refresh button and that will take that back to the original color palette. So if you guys just want to see what it looks like, you can do that. The secondary color palette, you also have the option to just save these. If you have maybe accents colors that you guys want to use often, you can store those in there and use those as well. So that is going to be the color palettes there. The backgrounds just give you guys the ability to change the background of the website. I highly recommend, and this is another kind of one of those tips, I highly recommend keeping to a color neutral background that's light gray, that is white, that is a light cream. So a very color neutral background. You can get away with creating colored background websites. We have a couple, but it's very difficult and tricky to do sometimes. So if you have a need or you're really interested in doing that, get with me and we'll work on that together. I want to make sure that your guys' sites are looking sharp. But again, color neutral is usually going to be the best way to go. So you can adjust, again, just the background of your website here if you'd like. The next one is size and values. So if you guys want to adjust the spacing, so when you saw earlier today when we were changing the spacing from small, medium, and large, you can adjust the actual pixel sizes for those and per the device as well. So these are really going to be set to be optimized best for your website, but if you want to play with those, you can, but they're usually set to be what you need to be. So I really wouldn't mess with those all that much. Grid settings just gives you the ability to adjust the column spacings and how much they switch by. So if you want to play with those, you can do that as well. Again, I wouldn't recommend playing with them all that much if you don't really need to. They're pretty much optimized for you. And last but not least, our widget section. So if you, again, those preset designs that we were looking at before, if you want to adjust the preset like of a button, you can do that inside these preset designs. If you don't want to go searching for that design or that widget, you can just simply click it and it will bring it up on the menu on the left-hand side. From there, if we wanted to say adjust this button to be blue, and let's say we want that to hover, well, I don't know, let's say we want to hover purple. We can go to more colors, we can pick purple. So now that'll be blue and it'll hover purple. And you also have the adjustment of adjusting the font and things like that for that as well. So that is going to be the basics of the design tab, unless you guys have any specific questions. If you guys have any questions, let me know. If you're good to go, go ahead and let's send me a smiley face. That way I know it's separate from the one. If you guys know how to do a smiley face, cool. Bunch of happy people, that's what I want to see. Awesome. All right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the media library. All right, so the media library is going to be where you guys are going to be uploading your media. Again, that is images, videos, documents, audio, things like that. To upload that, all you're going to do is come to the upload key, select that. Once you hit choose files, that'll bring up all the files from your desktop, as well as anything plugged into your computer. So if you have like a USB plugged in or anything like that, like a thumb drive, you can pull images or videos or whatever files you need to off of there. And then once you hit apply, they will be automatically uploaded into our all items section, which is going to be located here. So this is just all the items that are inside of your media library. From there, you also have the ability to create folders on the left-hand side, so you can categorize all of that media if you want to. These are just the stock ones that are in there. If you guys want to create your own folders, you can do that, or if you want to edit the existing one or throw one away, you can. say you have a large folder, and you want to organize that by file type, you have the ability to organize that by all images, or if you want to organize it just by video, or if you want to organize just by audio, you can click all those and that'll give you the ability to organize that information. So that's pretty straightforward. From there, all of the media is in the middle here. If we do select a piece of media, on the right-hand side, you'll get the file URL, the file name, as well as the size, the date uploaded, as well as the dimensions or the properties of the file. So if it's an audio file, it'll be like the length. Obviously, for images, it'll be the dimensions. So this is where you're seeing the pixel sizes and so forth. From there, if you want to edit an image or wherever it may be, you'll see that all these images have the little pencil icon on them. If I were to select that pencil icon, that'll bring up our photo editing system where you guys have the ability to edit this image. So for the people that had the questions about resizing images inside your photo, inside your media library to fit inside of a specific slider, if you have a very large image, I always recommend just coming to resize and resizing that down. You will see that the largest value will be 1024, and then the other value will actually respond and keep the aspect ratio of the image. So if it's a rectangle, it will keep that shape as it shrinks itself down. From there, if you want to adjust it any more, let's say the image is just a few pixels too tall, you have the ability to crop that image down. Say we want to trim some off the top and off the bottom, you can do that. And then if you hit apply, it'll save it as a new image inside your media library. So if I hit save, I can then scroll down to the very bottom, and now I have a brand new image down here. Okay. From there, again, you do have the ability to upload whatever images you want. So if you want to adjust those outside of our photo editing system, you can. Some of the other things that are in the photo editing system, you have the ability to add effects. So if you want to add like filters or anything like that to images, you have the ability to do that. There are some cool things where you guys can actually add. You can adjust the sharpness, obviously, the lighting, the color. If you want to, you have the ability to do things like splash, where you can actually say if we wanted to color in just this baby to stand out and have everything else gray and black and white, you can do that. There's a ton of different things that you can do in here and kind of play around with it. One thing that's cool is focus. So if you want to create a center of focus and everything else be blurry, you can do that, which is kind of neat. So there's a ton of different things that you can play around in here. But for the most part, that is going to be your media library. You guys have any questions on that at all? If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Any questions? Cool. Alrighty. So we'll go ahead and jump to the settings tab. The settings tab is going to be, again, your settings section. You're not going to be spending a whole lot of time here. Some of the things that are important are going to be our update section. So where you guys want to make sure that your product is up to date. If some of you had bought your template more than a week ago, you will see that the 3.2.0 version is available. That's you're getting the new updated accordion widget, the pop-up feature, some bug fixes. So there are some other things we now operate on PHP 7. Some things like that are important. So you want to make sure that you keep your product up to date. The next is the analytics section. Once you launch your site, if you want to track who's coming to your site, how long they're staying, what they're looking at, what pages they visit most, all that information, some good metrics for marketing, you can do that by simply putting in your tracking code here, and people will be able to then you guys will actually be able to then track your visitors, the metrics for your website there. So that's a really cool tool. And then again, for Google Webmaster Tools, you have the ability to do that. These two options are actually for our ministries overseas, so I really wouldn't worry about that. But as far as tracking for you guys, the Google metric or the Google Analytics and the Google Webmaster Tools are going to be cool, great resources for you to have. The other part I do want to mention here is our font section. So you guys did see where you can adjust the font inside the textiles, inside the design tab. If there was not a font that you guys like, if you go to add, you can simply, I would just select keeping all languages. Again, we work with ministries all over the world, so we have a ton of different languages that are available, but all languages. If you go to choose font, we have a list of hundreds of different fonts here from Google Fonts. So feel free to add whatever font you want. Obviously, you cannot see the font before you select it, but if you go to the website, if you go to Google and you just type in Google Fonts, you'll get a live preview of all these fonts. So you can take a look at what they look like before you actually select them. But I mean, there are hundreds of them here. So feel free to play with whatever ones you want. All you have to do is select it, hit save, and that will get added to your template. The other sections here, code injection. So if you guys want to do any sort of SEO, if you guys need to verify your domain name or stuff like that, that's what the code injection's for. We do offer mail, a webmail service here. If you guys want to use webmail or mail outside of Ministry Designs, you can do that. You can connect it to your site via the SMTP server settings. That's what this setting is for. Integrations. So if you guys want to, again, implement a chat feature for your blog, you can use that for Discuss. If you guys want to do the Adobe, if you want to get creative, the Adobe Creative Cloud series, you can plug that in as well. And then last but not least, we have redirects. So if you want to redirect your domain names inside the template, you can do that. As far as redirecting your domain name to get your site launched, we'll help you with that once you guys are ready. And then back to the general settings, you have the things here like your favicon, which is going to be this little logo up here. Right now, it's the Ministry Designs logo, if you can see my mouse. You guys have the ability to switch that to your logo if you'd like, just by switching the website favicon here. You want to set the time zone for your ministry. We're Eastern time, so that's +5, but you guys can take a look and see what you guys are. Central's +4, Mountain's +3, Pacific is +2, I believe, down in order. So that's how that will go. And then you have some SEO settings as well as some security settings. You want to activate password protected pages, enable under construction mode, and so forth. So that's going to be kind of the basics of your settings tab. Paul asks, how do you set up mailboxes for the website? Great question, Paul. Once the site is launched on your domain name, we'll create you an account to where you'll be able to log into what's called your cPanel, which is a direct connection to your spot on our server here at Ministry Designs, and that will give you the ability to create and manage your emails. From there, you can, again, create forwards if you need to, access your webmail and all that. So that's going to be actually outside of your site builder. That's going to be a direct connection to what's called your cPanel. Awesome. So any questions on the settings tab here before I move on? Okay, looks like everybody's good to go. So the last section, and we'll talk briefly about the blog, just because not a lot of people do use this, but a lot of people, once you get the idea of how else the system works, you can kind of figure it out. These are going to be the blog posts that you guys can create. If you want to add a post, all you have to do is hit add. Since we have a test post created, I'll just go into one of these test posts. From there, you have the ability to just build this out like you would a page. So we put an image in here and a text box, and then you can just construct your blog post like that. From there, before you actually begin typing in your blog post, you have the ability to add things like preview images, so you can match the preview image with the image inside the blog, which you'll actually see your recent post list over here. So the preview image will be attached to the title of your blog post, and it'll organize it from most recent to least recent, and it'll organize that in the menu on the right-hand side. So that's pretty straightforward. You also have the ability to adjust the layouts of the main page of your blog page as well as your post. So if you want to adjust what those look like, you have the ability to do that as well. Those are going to function just like the Pages tab. You have the ability to adjust these by dragging in different widgets however you'd like. So it kind of functions much like the Pages tab. And that is going to be really the end of the presentation as far as today is concerned. Did you guys have any specific questions as far as, if you guys want to see certain things kind of used, or if you guys didn't have any understanding on something? If it all makes sense and you guys are feeling confident to get in there and play around with your own template, go ahead and just send me a 10, just so I know how confident you guys are. If you do have any questions, feel free to type those in, and I'll use maybe the next few minutes just to answer those questions. If you want to stick around with those questions, you can stick around as well. If you guys feel confident, you can sign off as well, not a problem, and log into your template, begin working. Again, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this video is available on YouTube as well if you guys want to refer back to this later. Shelly did have a question. She said, can you move an item from a header to the body or reverse, or do you create and remove one from the other? So Shelly, if you were wanting to, I'm guessing you probably want to move your slider out of your header if that's what you're wanting to do. In order to do that, a way to do that is you can actually select something inside of one section, and you have the ability to copy that piece of content, and you know that it's copied by the paste option illuminating. So I can copy that, and then all I have to do is cancel out. I can go to my other section, say I can go to my header if I wanted to, and I can paste that in there. So now you can see we have this slider inside the content. you know, the slider inside the header, and then all you have to do is save, go back to the content section and delete that out. And then now you have your slider inside your header, or vice versa if you want to move those sections. And you guys have the ability to copy and paste and duplicate whole sections for your website as well. So if there's, say, a row that you guys want to use somewhere else in your website, you can actually take a whole row and you can either duplicate that whole row, or if you guys want to, you can actually take that whole row, highlight it again, copy that entire row, go to a completely new page even. Let's say we go to like our ministries page. So we click inside of here and we can paste that entire row inside a new page. So if you guys want to use bits and pieces from other pages, you have the ability to copy and paste those into those pages as well. Shelly, if you want, you and I can just work together in a different appointment to help you with that problem. But does anybody have any additional questions? Just let me know. I'll kind of leave it open for the next couple seconds to see if you guys have any questions or come up with any questions you have. Okay, Paul said, if you've already made a lot of changes in there, is there any way to get back to the original? Unfortunately, there's not, Paul. If you need help inside your template, we can always schedule another appointment. I can help you rebuild certain things if you've accidentally deleted stuff. If you haven't deleted all the pages, you can always go back into other pages, copy sections, and you can move those from one page to the other as well. But again, that's why I highly, highly recommend before you go in there and start deleting a bunch of stuff, I always highly, highly recommend going through all of the pages inside of our template and duplicating them one at a time. That way you have the original version of each page available to you forever and ever. That way you can always duplicate it or copy something out of the original pages. Okay, so no more questions are coming in. So, one more question here. Shantae said, you sent me the dummy link. Is that just, so the dummy link is going to be for the dummy site. That's just so that you can share that with other people if you would like. So if you want to give people the ability to view that while you're still building it, just share that link with them, Shantae, and they'll be able to view the site. They won't actually be able to log into the builder. They'll just be able to view the site that you're working on. So if you want to share that with people, you have the ability to share that. Absolutely. All right, any more questions? All right, good deal. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys for joining us today. Again, like I said, you guys do have the ability to book other 20-minute appointments after this if you do have any specific questions. The other thing I would highly recommend doing is reaching out to our support department if you do have any additional quick questions. All you have to do is just email support@ministrydesigns.org, and I'll actually color this blue so you can see it. If you email support@ministrydesigns.org, that is a 24/7 ticketing system. So any day or time or nighttime, day or week or weekend, email them. That'll create a ticket for you, and we'll get your questions answered there. So if you have any quick, simple questions that you don't want to book an appointment for, feel free to reach out to them. That's a great resource. They'll help you with whatever you need. Other than that, if you do have questions that you need an appointment for, feel free to schedule a time with me. But other than that, I appreciate you guys joining the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, so feel free to enjoy your weekend. And I will do my best to get this up on YouTube by the end of the day today in case you guys want to refer back to it. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to support or reach out to me. All right, guys, have a great weekend. Take care.